Donald Trump's effort to flex his muscles to occupy Democratic states and cities with National Guardsmen sent there by Republican governors is starting to backfire as it collides with the reality of crime statistics in red states and cities. I'm Michael Popok. Let's take a hard look now in the aftermath of the occupation of the District of Columbia, what's happening in the District of Columbia, the pushback by grand juries who are refusing to indict for the crimes and certainly the petty crimes that Donald Trump's prosecutors are bringing forward, which is a good firewall to protect our democracy, and Donald Trump turning on his base to go after guns in D.C., which is exactly the opposite of what the gun lobby that supports Donald Trump wants him to do. I'm Michael Popok. You're here on Legal AF. Monday, Labor Day. Let's talk about the law of unintended consequences. Let's start with the statement by Donald Trump that he made recently when he was pressed by reporters about why aren't you sending troops to red cities? And he then said a version of, I don't think they need it. I don't think there are many that have crime rates that are equal to or more than DC. Let's run that clip.
On the National Guard, you've talked a lot about Democratic-run cities and states. Yeah. Would you also consider sending the National Guard into red states and red cities that are also seeing high crime?
Sure, but there aren't that many of them. If you look at the top 25 cities for crime, just about every one of those cities is run by Democrats. And you know, one of the bad things they did, cashless bail, if you look back on time, when they allowed a murderer out that afternoon, you know, he'd kill somebody and then a couple of hours later he's walking the streets again, oftentimes killing again rapidly. Cashless bail is a disaster. You saw we had a news conference today on that. We're wiping it out in D.C., immediately wiping it out. It started in New York, I must tell you, and it's been a horrible thing for crime, especially violent crime. So we're going to end cashless bail, yes.
But there are. The New York Times just did a great article about it. Let me just roll off the tip of my tongue. The cities in red states where the governors there may want to consider calling up the National Guard or having Donald Trump send federal troops at $1 million a day to do it for them. These are all the cities that have crime rates that are equal to or more than the District of Columbia. Some double the rates of the District of Columbia. Kansas City, St. Louis, Birmingham, Springfield, Cleveland, Dayton, and Toledo in Ohio, Tulsa, Houston, Memphis, Salt Lake City, San Antonio, all have crime rates using the same statistical model higher than DC. And yet, I don't see any federal troops there because Donald Trump's just not going down the list trying to pick out where he can do a surge of federal troops in order to fight crime. He's just trying to do it for political means to embarrass the Democratic brand. That's all we're watching. And it's costing the U.S. taxpayers $1 million a day to have those National Guards troops from other red states surge into the Capitol. I'm Michael Popok. You're here on Legal AF and Midas Touch. I'm glad you're here. Take a minute, by the way, hit the free subscribe button, slide over to Legal AF Substack, do the exact same thing there as we continue to grow that community as well. Now, I don't hear any of the red state governors in Texas, in Ohio, and Missouri calling for and trying to call up federal troops. I don't see Donald Trump trying to go there. You just saw Donald Trump say out loud, he doesn't think there's a problem in red states. This is all out and out political theater. And you know who's figured that out, thankfully? The grand juries in D.C. And if he goes into Chicago, if he goes into Cleveland, if he goes into these other places, he goes into Chicago, Philadelphia, and other Democratic cities and Democratic states, same thing's going to happen. Because they may be blue cities, but they're blue grand juries too. These are made up of their peers. And for instance, he's 0 for 5 in getting indictments with grand juries so far in D.C. That's Jeanine Pirro formerly of the Fox and Friends, whatever she was, former state court judge running around trying to be the DC U.S. attorney. She's not doing well with the grand juries, you know? And the place she is doing well, at least with arrests, is driving the MAGA crazy because she's picking up guns off the streets. Not a bad thing. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, but I'm also in favor of getting illegal, unregistered guns off the street, including those that were involved with committing crimes. But of course, this puts him sideways with his base, who are all gun supporters, who are all, we don't want guns off the streets. Get your hands off our guns, right? So gun rights groups from the NRA and others don't like the fact that he's going after guns in D.C. Now, they should like certain things. We just came off a tragic shooting, second one already, in Minneapolis, of all places, and this time in a Catholic church school, the church related to the school. And at the same time, let's look at the Trump administration's record on guns. He's doing all this surge into D.C. How's he doing on getting guns off the street nationally? Not well. We currently do not have, and we're 8-9 months into this administration, we don't have even an acting head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. Nobody has their hands on the wheel related to firearm regulation, the importation of illegal firearms, gun smuggling. Nobody. And it's an orphan. Donald Trump has tried to pass this agency off and stick it in various places. It's now buried in the Department of Justice. Nobody's paying attention to it. It's a real orphan. But Trump's trying to stick it with let's put it with drug enforcement. No, they don't want it. Let's put it with the FBI. Kash Patel, who was offered the job to run alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, said no. So nobody's doing alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. And there's new reporting that the Trump administration quietly cut 2/3 of the inspectors of the gun industry, the regulators for the gun industry and the gun sales industry, the license part, just so long. That's another Doge thing. 2/3 of the inspectors are gone. Yet on the streets of DC, as a show of force, they have 1,000 arrests. Now that 1,000 arrests in the last less than a month is very identical to the number of arrests that the Metro Police was doing without Donald Trump's assistance. The only difference is Trump leans heavier on federal firearm possession charges, which undercuts, of course, his MAGA base. And they're aiming the resources in D.C. in the wrong places. They're not in the inner city part of D.C., where the average resident may live, and to help with their crime problem. It's really just this cosplay of putting troops on the ground around where Donald Trump works and lives, and around national monuments. Well, that was always like the safest part of Washington, D.C. You ever been to Washington? You have zero. It's like walking around Disney, especially during the day and even at night, among the monuments, among the museums, among the centers, among all the things Donald Trump is trying to put out of existence. It's when you leave there and you go where people live, that's where the crime is, but that's exactly where the National Guard isn't. And the red state governors better be careful, because there's a price to be paid in the public mind for them playing politics with crime busting and crime enforcement. Now, Donald Trump thinks that he's pressing a winning hand, that for the Republicans and his populist message, fighting crime and making that stark distinction by saying Democrats are soft on crime, only Republicans are rough on crime, he's winning politically. But that's not what the polling is showing. Donald Trump's not winning politically on any major issue that matters, because he reneged on his promises to the American people about what he would focus on to make their lives better. And instead, he's focused on what makes Donald Trump's life better, like his $1.5 billion that he's made and grifted while he's been being paid a salary to be the president of the United States and bragging about it. So that didn't help the American people. Prices up, jobs down. Anything that matters to everybody from the moment they get up in the morning until the moment they go to sleep at night has been wrecked by Donald Trump. Like to watch other human beings who used to work with you or for you. You like to see them running through Home Depot parking lots because they're being chased by masked agents. You like to see them being chased through churches. You like to see them being chased through factories and farms. You like to see fruit literally die on the vine because there's nobody there to pick it. You like to see fruit and vegetable prices up 30 to 40% at the supermarket. That's the Trump economy. And so his polls are heading down below 30%. They're at 38% and dropping. And so I don't, he thinks he's got a winning hand with immigration and crime fighting, but that's not what the polling says. The polling says the Republican brand is damaged by Donald Trump and that people don't trust him on the issues that they elected him under. And that, except for closing the border, look, let's be fair. 99% of America isn't anywhere near a border that matters. 99%, a very high percentage of America rarely meets a black and brown person or a person with an accent or a person from another country in their daily life, unless you live in one of the Democratic urban centers or, a more cosmopolitan state. But the other places, but yet they're all hot and bothered. They'll never meet a transgender person. They may or may not have met a gay person. They may or may not have met a Jewish person or a Muslim. And yet they're all hot and bothered because Donald Trump makes them that way about the border and crime. And yet crime is down. And that's the Biden policies that made that happen, not the Trump policies. I'll continue to follow it all. I'm glad you're here with us on Legal AF. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button, slide over to Legal AF Substack, do the exact same thing. That's how you support our work and our contributions here on a Labor Day weekend for Legal AF. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.